Open Minds Media. The reality we live in can be a very strange place. Most of the time, fact being stranger than fiction. How will we ever start to understand this reality we live in unless we question everything? Join me and a guest as we unravel the mysteries of this reality, one topic at a time. This is Inquiries of Our Reality with Shayn Jones.
What is up, Inquirers, and welcome to the expanse of deep open-minded conversation. I'm the one they call Shane, and today for you guys, I actually have the pleasure of somebody that I recently went on their show, but they talked about some experiences that they had personally had, so we figured that they would come on my side and talk about some of those experiences. So I definitely think you guys are going to enjoy today's show. A lot of interesting stuff to dissect and talk about, of course. But before we get into today's show, just a couple of quick things. The next live Bizarre Inquiries that'll be on the Open Minds Media YouTube is going to be on March 6th, and that'll probably happen around 7:15 p.m. Eastern Central Time. But of course, as we get a bit closer to that date, we will give you guys some more information on the show and through social media, of course. And I mentioned it on the last couple episodes, but I recently cleaned up the merch store a little bit. So if you guys are in the market for some awesome gear for this show or any of your favorite topics and or creatures or conspiracies or anything like that, you guys can pop over there and check that out, of course. And one last thing, if anyone would like to be a guest on the show, or if anyone has had an encounter or experience they would like to share on the show, or possibly even have me investigate, you guys can get a hold of me through email, which is inquiriesofourrealitypodcast@outlook.com. Or you guys get a hold of me through the hotline. You guys can call or text that, whatever is easier. And that number is 313-364-1551. And every single thing that I mention or will mention throughout the show is all available in the link tree, which is available down in that show description. And with that, let's get into the show. Please welcome to the show, Oscar Romo from Induced Fear Podcast. How's it going today, man?
It's going good, man. It's going good. Getting over being sick, but I'm here. I'm good enough to do this. So, I'm bummed you didn't use the S at the end of Romo, but it's all right.
I mean, I didn't want to be. I have to say it right the first time. Otherwise, if people try to look you up, then they're not going to find the right person. They're going to be finding some random guy named Oscar Romos.
Yeah,
it kind of sounds like it'd be like a villain or something, you know, like Oscar Romos.
yeah. He has almost an identical show. Instead of Induced Fear, it's Induced Fears.
Induced Happiness.
Yeah.
See, and that's a little bit more twisted than most people would think.
Yeah. It's all about real stuff.
Way too real. He's making people be happy, like forcing them. It's like that those dystopian movies that you see where everybody's like has the giant creepy smiles on their face and you don't know why they're so happy. Like,
oh yeah,
Induced Happiness.
Induced Happiness. Second show idea.
But I guess before we start going too far off the rails onto some other random stuff, I recently was a guest on your show, and that was an absolute pleasure, man. I appreciate the invitation. So I figured that I'd have to pass it the other way because when we were having our conversation, you mentioned that you had some bizarre experiences that you could possibly share. But I guess before we get into that part, at least for anybody that may not be familiar with what Induced Fear is, what exactly you cover on that show and exactly how you got into it. Why don't you let them know a little bit about yourself and a little bit about what you do?
Yeah, so I guess about myself, really, how I got into this is my godfather. He would tell stories all the time about ghost stories. Anytime we passed a place, a location, this place is haunted, here's the story why. And that led into me asking these questions, being into the shows, having my own experiences that made me ask even more questions. And then as the years went on, I thought about doing a YouTube channel, basically really a top 5 of top 5 spookiest encounters, top 5 spookiest whatever. Then when the whole rigmarole of everybody being stuck inside happened, I was like, why not just start a podcast with everybody else that's starting a podcast? And
Most of those guys died out, it seems like.
yeah. No, I was like, maybe I'll just join along. Maybe, I don't know. We'll see how this goes. It started off with just me, a friend, and my brother. We would just do certain topics in the beginning. So it'd be like a month of just talking about haunted dolls, which was like the first 3 episodes of the show.
Definitely inducing fear.
Yeah. Right there, right from the beginning. I think the first one we did was Annabelle and some other cursed doll, Poopa, the haunted doll.
Not to sidetrack you too much, but just a quick question. Maybe you can come back around to it a little bit.
Yeah.
Annabelle, do you think it's real or do you think it's bullshit? Because the Warrens are, yes, that's kind of where I always fell.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that's what we say in that episode too. I was like, it could be embellished. Who knows? You know,
you got to watch the Warrens because they did
Yeah.
more shady shit than any other investigation group that's ever existed, man.
Oh yeah. The years down the line, I ended up doing a whole episode talking about like the Conjuring movies and the Warrens themselves. But then that's how the show first started, just topics, and then eventually started getting in contact with other investigators and people who had experiences. We had people send experiences in, and ended up turning into doing mainly interview-based episodes and listening to people tell their stories, talking to other creators, having roundtables of UFO disclosure type deal. And now we're here where I do the interviewing and get to talk to awesome people, get all kinds of craziness, man. As you go further and further into it, the more you start getting, what would be considered outlandish stories, but when you're listening to these people talk about it, it's real to them. Like, they know what they saw, they know what they experienced, they know how they felt, and it's just awesome to be able to share that.
So it kind of pushes you down the path a bit more because it's like, for anybody on the outside, it's like the entryway in is like Sasquatch. But once you get going, it's like you realize there's a lot more out there and people can say what they want about it. But like, even if theoretically you didn't have your own experiences, but you like ran a show like this and you were talking to people about having experiences, like after you hear so much of the same calling cards for people that don't have any contact with each other, maybe aren't even necessarily into the phenomenon. And then once you start getting a bit farther in where you start having people that are describing like dogmen and things like for lack of a better term, like pale crawlers. I think they're Wendigos, but that's a whole other side story and stuff like that. But just people's describing seeing things like this, and you see like the fear in their face as they're telling the encounter, and you start seeing that they, again, didn't necessarily have anything to like relate it to just be coming on a show saying like, this is what I think I saw. Like, it just kind of brings you farther down that path with, I don't want to say like believing in it necessarily, but almost like knowing that there is something weird out there, even if people aren't necessarily seeing exactly what they think they're seeing. There is definitely something that can't be explained. Like, there's enough hunters out there that spend hours and hours and hours in the woods, and then they start seeing like, Dogman or like Sasquatch, and it's like, how are you going to tell that guy like what he didn't see? Like,
yeah, that's what I mean. And then once it comes down to that, and people are sharing their stories, they even will tell you, like, I know this sounds crazy. I know this sounds like way out there, but this is what happened. Like, this is what genuinely happened to me. And when you're listening to somebody say that and the way they say it, like with sincerity in their voice and not like trying to embellish the story, they're just going off of what they remember, how they felt. That's what really sells it to me and makes me dive further down into that rabbit hole of wanting to learn more about this subject.
Dude, even like people don't necessarily always get to see everybody's faces that you end up talking to on some of these shows, but there's even been people that I've talked to that are like these big, huge, like tough dudes, like ex-military, like all this type of stuff. And they'll start talking about like their experiences and they'll start like tearing up and like you'll see that like their heart will start beating fast and stuff like that. It's like if you can strike fear into like an ex-military like Marine who's seen some shit, then like there's got to be something to it. Like if this guy's starting to tear up, like that's a registered badass right there. Like you know something happened if that dude is tearing up, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, that's I had a guy come on, and he was like I was going, hanging out with gang members, doing this, the life of this, just like a gangster lifestyle, I guess. And he kept having this experience with like a witch attachment, and he started to get emotional at a point, and he was like, "I'm sorry, man, I'm getting emotional." And I'm like, "Hey, no need to be sorry. Like this is just how like I see how this experience is making you feel." And like to get those types of emotions when listening to these stories are just amazing. That's one of the reasons why I love doing this particularly, is just to be able to hear other people's experiences and go from there. Because it's different to search a subject that's been researched by hundreds of people before you, and you're just reading, on a paper, their accounts that they put down. But when you're actually talking to people, I think it's a whole different like game when you're actually there interviewing them.
Oh yeah, 100%. Because again, you can like see emotion in their face. You can see everything about them. And I mean, on top of that too, it's almost like therapy for them in a way too. Cause if they try to go to like a normal therapist or something and try to talk about like a UFO abduction experience, like that person's going to say, all right, this guy has hallucinations. He has this. They start slapping all these like labels on him that may not necessarily be the case. And, you kind of give them that open ear where you'll actually hear them out for what they believe the actual experience was. And I definitely think that there are other childhood traumatic experiences that will almost get like covered up with like UFO experiences and things like that. But that still falls into that line where like to that person, that thing is real, even if it is something that's over a traumatic memory. Or honestly, if they are fully experiencing like UFO abductions, it's like, again, you get to be that opening ear for them instead of just basically sitting there and telling them everything, every mental illness that they possibly have. Instead, you sit there and you actually try to break things down with them and you start connecting it with previous guests you've had on the show. And then you start connecting other people, and then you start connecting pieces of the phenomenon. You almost feel like, for as much research as there is out there, like you said, hundreds of people doing all these different topics, at least it's like your way of putting almost like, your little stamp on stuff that you can be like, I connected this and this. So here's something that I can do that's not necessarily putting your name on it, but being able to push the research forward because people are starting to make these connections. So, you may not have your name on like your theory, but at least you connected the dots between these couple things and you can push the research further. Because at the end of the day, it's like nobody's getting rich off this stuff. And honestly, I feel like it would be a derogatory thing if you were, because honestly, like people are coming to you with their experiences and everything like that. So it's like, you don't want to make money off of it. Like you're not trying to be rich off of it. You know what I mean? Like you're just trying to maintain your podcast. Like, a lot of podcasts have ads and stuff like that. But honestly, it's because all the programs are expensive. Like you just want to at least make enough to just cover the programs and everything like that. But, so yeah, at the end of the day, it's like, nobody's going to get rich off this stuff. Like you're not trying to get rich off of it, but if you can push the research further to get to a better point, and you're not one of those podcasters that's out here basically just trying to, make a story more than what it is. You're actually trying to do something solid for the research. Like that's all I need at the end of the day. It's just to know that even if I'm unnamed, I'm unmasked, at least I'm one of the people that's contributing to the honest research being done,
Yeah. Plus it's just nice to be able to see those connections. I mean, even when you were on my show and you were sharing your own experiences, it made me want to say the things that I experienced, because there was some type of overlap in the things that we have shared, or that you were sharing. I was like, oh man, I can relate to that, but I want to wait till I'm on yours so I could explain it to you. And that's one of the really cool things, is like when you're like, oh, somebody else came on the show and they also experienced that. So it also lets you know you're not alone. Those people are not alone. Nobody is crazy, really. I mean, unless they're genuinely crazy. But
you can tell those ones.
Yeah, they're very wide-eyed and like But yeah, those are things that I like when it comes to the show. And yeah, now the show is where it's at. Get to talk to people like you, and you know, share experiences. That's what makes this whole paranormal world go round.
Ain't that
Or
the truth?
just spin.
Or spin, or
Yeah.
rotate if you
Yeah.
know people are out there that are
Whatever
flat
you believe.
earthers, whatever you believe. Hold on tight, everyone. Inquiries of Our Reality will be right back after this brief commercial break. But if you don't mind taking a second to follow Inquiries of Our Reality on Instagram and Facebook, and Open Minds Media on YouTube and TikTok, I'd greatly appreciate it. And feel free to spark up a conversation. I love getting to know you guys. And now back to the show. Well, I guess since you're kind of bringing it up a little bit, and the listeners of this show are familiar with my experiences because I've talked to them on the show and everything, and you know, making some connections, I'd love to get into like your experiences, where it started for you, and if it started for you after you started researching this stuff, or if it was something that eventually led you into getting into this research.
Oh, it's something that definitely led me. It happened years ago when I was probably 7, I don't know, maybe 8. My first experience happened, and it was right after, not like right after, but it was right after my dad had passed away, and so I think it was like 7. But I remember just putting this call out because it's a traumatic experience, obviously, and I remember putting a call out and just saying, if anything is out there, if anything can just let me see my dad one more time, I would appreciate that. It wasn't like a call. I wasn't praying like to God in general. It was just a call out into the ether. And that's when weird things would just happen. We'd find pennies on the floor, like randomly, just in the middle of a hallway. And my mom would equate it to, oh, that's your dad leaving coins for you there. My toys would go off in the middle of the night that had no batteries inside of them, to the point where my mom would throw them out because it was freaking her out. Because in her eyes, paranormal stuff was devil stuff. So she was like, "No, that's devil stuff. Don't talk about it. Don't talk about it unless it
Was
made
she
us
Catholic?
feel better." No. My dad was Catholic, but I think it's just a Hispanic thing. Like,
Yeah, I was going to say, it seems like it's either one, a Hispanic thing, that it seems like they're a lot more aware of the paranormal. And then on the other side, it always seems like Catholics, more so than a lot of other religions, are the ones that are first like, nope, nothing, don't, nope,
Yeah.
nope. Because Christians kind of go a little bit back and forth, because some like diving into the Nephilim stuff. They start like making the connections and everything. And then other ones are like, nope, nope, nope. But it seems like there's more Catholics that are just like, nope.
100%. That's how my mom was just like, no, that's devil stuff. Unless it just made us feel better. So I mean, the toys she definitely didn't like. She didn't like hearing the toys go off in the middle of the night. It was like this giant black robot, like Megazord looking thing, and it would just go off, just start making noises, and then eventually, I started having these feelings that something was in the room with me. First, I thought it was like, could that be like my dad around or whatever? But it just felt off. Whatever it was felt off. Until one night, as many people are aware of the feeling that you get when sleep paralysis happens, like everything feels heavy. There's that weird sound of like static. I like to describe it as like the sound of silence. It's like if everything is just like pulled out of the atmosphere. I open my eyes and there's just a dark figure, darker than the darkness of the room. And me being 7 or 8, I'm just frozen in fear, can't move. Try to yell for my brother because we shared a room at the time, and I couldn't. Every like push of trying to say something was letting out what air I had in my lungs, and I felt like I couldn't get it back. And it didn't do anything really. It just kind of was just hovering, looking over on top of me, and just like watching me. And I end up somehow breaking out of that feeling and shooting up out of bed and like catching my breath again, like just trying to get it back. And I was so freaked out. I just turned on the TV to static. Didn't even bother trying to wake up my brother at the time. Just in that moment, it's like, what was this thing? And what did it want? Because I didn't think of it as like my dad or the spirit of my father. I didn't think it in that sense. It didn't feel nurturing, I guess would be a word to use for that, or loving. It just felt like a void, I guess. And
It seemed like it almost feels like that's what it was trying to fill. Because I don't know if it felt like it was your dad in the first place or anything, but it almost seems like when somebody's calling out for something, something is going to answer, but it may not always be the thing that you want it to be, but it may masquerade around like it is, like it is the thing that you want it to be.
Yeah, that's what it's weird it's hard to explain just because I couldn't. All I knew in that moment was just fear. That's all that was going through my mind, was like, this is scaring me to no end right now. To the point where I didn't even bother to wake up anybody else after that. I was just put the TV on static. I just need light in the room, and I'm just going to sit here and breathe and wonder what this was. And it would happen periodically, every couple of nights, a month or a week or a year would go by, and then it would just keep repeating itself over and over. And when you were on the show and you were talking about how you felt like you were seeing yourself coming back into your body during your experiences, there was a part of me that during those moments, I thought it was myself. I was like, is this me that I'm seeing trying to come back?
Like a reflection of yourself or something almost?
Yeah, like, or if like I'm wandering while I'm like, when I go to sleep, like, is my soul like wandering somewhere? And then as it's coming back, I'm waking up at the same moment, and it's kind of like stuck because I'm so afraid I'm not letting myself get back in. It was a weird thought that I had.
I mean, one thing that might possibly connect with that, they talk about like the whole like silver cord connection. I mean, I wonder if there's a component to that that's almost like split consciousness, where part of it is inhabiting the astral and part of it is just inhabiting your physical. And when people do have these experiences where you almost feel like you're seeing like a reflection of yourself in a weird way, if it is a matter of, like you kind of explained it, that you are seeing yourself, but the only reason that you're able to experience that is because it's almost like your consciousness is in two places at once and it doesn't recognize itself because it assumes that it's only going to be in one place.
Yeah. And that was a thought that like freaked me out as a kid. And then I just ended up being used to this thing happening. I would get that feeling of, all right, here comes that noise. Here comes that feeling of heaviness in the room. And sometimes I would only go into sleep paralysis when I made eye contact with this thing, whatever it was. It was just this dark shadow figure. I couldn't make out any features on it. Your brain will start to try to fill in where you think eyes would be, where the nose would be, and things like that. But
what's the name of that? There's something with your brain where it will try to recognize faces and stuff. There's a name for it.
Pareidolia.
That's it. Yep.
That's what my brain was trying to do and trying to figure out, because I couldn't see anything on this entity. And sometimes I would be like, you know what, whatever, let's just get it over with. And I would roll over to the other side, make eye contact, and then just let it happen, and then just be done with it. And I couldn't really, I still didn't know what it was. So that's what, by the time the internet was really a thing, is when I started to go like, oh, okay, now I can really like search up what could this be? Or is anybody else dealing with this type of entity? Is anybody else having like a shadow being, visit them or whatever? And then that leads to finding other people's story. You're like, oh, this is like a I wouldn't say normal, but a regular occurrence for a lot of people.
The whole shadow person thing, it seems like almost everybody you talk to that is in the paranormal, maybe it's like an entryway in, but it seems like almost everybody has had some type of like shadow person experience. And I don't think it's a matter of like I don't think it's a matter of like everybody necessarily like wanting to have an experience. So like people are just like making stuff up. I think it's like honestly a matter of like, how do you explain a shadow that's like darker than dark? Like if there is any connection to like the spiritual realm, like there's got to be these like joint reflections of things, or even on the vice versa. I mean, if you look at stuff from a more scientific perspective and you start getting into like astrophysics with like multiple dimensions and everything, and then multiple things existing within the same place at once, I mean, there's inevitably got to be bleed over at some point. Like, you know, for as spiritual as it may seem, I feel like there could be a lot of like scientific backing to what it is when you start getting into like the new age type of like science ideas.
Yeah. I mean, because you can't say that everybody is a mass hysteria type thing. People are just imagining seeing these things. Because I remember one time I there are scientific explanations of sleep paralysis, and sometimes sleep paralysis will only occur when you're in a highly stressed state.
I think they're just making stuff up for that stuff. I mean, they just want to feel like they have something with it, but I feel like it's just they have nothing.
And one time I put the call out on Reddit of all places. I put a call out of sleep paralysis stories. Like, what did you see? I wanted to get, because there are plenty of different things that people see. Some people see a black cat. Some people see a spider. You know, they're all shadows in a way, but they see certain things. And I remember putting a call out, and for some reason, I don't know why, they just removed my post and said, your post was too controversial of of a topic on Reddit. For Reddit that allows, you know, the craziest of crazy videos for you to see. Sleep paralysis and shadow people was too controversial of a topic.
See, this is where stuff starts getting weird. I have a lot of like conspiracies that I think are kind of related to this like whole paranormal thing. And so I think that the U.S. government, just governments in general, have been doing research on astral projection, like other realms for so long that there's got to be something to it. Otherwise, they wouldn't waste as much money as they have since like going back to the 60s and probably even before that, researching this type of stuff. But like, I think that there's a whole conspiracy to it where almost like they let these like ghost type shows happen, and they intentionally will be like some of the people that are funding this stuff for that to be just like the most ridiculous out there thing ever. So that most people are thinking of the paranormal. They think of all these like goofy, hokey, like ghost shows and stuff like that, because they want the water to be muddied so that the actual, like what's going on with it can kind of hide in the shadows. Because again, it's like, why would paranormal stuff be pulled off unless there is something like weird to it? And getting into a little bit more conspiratorial type of stuff. I mean, when people talk about this whole thing with like these royal bloodlines and all these like elite families, where it almost seems like the same people get like recycled down, like they'll have the same personality, they'll like look the same as their ancestors and everything. And not even just like in a normal way, but like in an exact way where they'll have like weird facial features that are exactly the same. And just, you know, I think that there's more to it. And I feel like there's within the paranormal realm would be where the whole idea to be able to transfer consciousness might be held, because I think there's two ways to go about just about anything. I think that there's like a natural way to get about something, and then there's an artificial way that we create to get about things. And I feel like there's definitely an artificial way that you could trap consciousness to put it into something else. But on the other side, I think there's a natural way to do that, where if you understand how to enter this realm or how to stay tethered to like a certain area until there is an open place for you to go again, I feel like there's a natural way of doing it, and then there's like a synthetic way of doing it. And I think that they know a lot more about that natural way of doing it than they lead off. So they just let them waters get muddy as much as possible. But if you start getting close to something, that's when stuff gets pulled. And like you were saying with the whole, like maybe a mirror of yourself concept, like maybe they don't want people to start kind of realizing that, because then at that point, it could almost, again, prove what I was kind of saying earlier with like joint consciousness, or again, being able to leave your physical vessel and possibly even enter another one.
Yeah.
Hold that thought. We'll be back in a flash. But if you don't like hearing the ads, then I have a solution for you. You can get ad-free and early access to this show and Bizarre Encounters with Shayn Orin on the Open Minds Media Patreon for just $1 a month. That's less than a bag of chips, and it's a great way to support the show and all the hard work behind it. And if you're interested in merch store discounts, live access to episodes, or premium video versions of episodes, then there are a few other tiers with additional benefits with 7-day free trials available. And we are back, so let's hop right in.
Yeah, I mean, there was a moment where things would kind of change, like, because I got so used to this thing happening, I would just ignore it sometimes, and I wouldn't allow it. Sometimes I would just be like, get it over with, whatever. And then other moments I would be like, no, I don't. I'm too tired. I'm just gonna sleep. I'm not gonna even try to focus on you. I'm gonna ignore whatever energy is coming into this room and push it out. And I remember when we first moved here to Colorado. It was after driving from New York here, 3 days of driving, tiring as all hell. And we had nothing really, a couch and everything and a bed. And my fiance goes to go to sleep. I stay on the couch, rotting my brain the good old way of watching TV and scrolling through my phone at the same time.
Twofer.
Thing. Yeah. And eventually I for some reason I see her get up, and she's walking out of the room, and I put my phone down and I'm like, are you okay? Do you need anything? She just kind of walks into the hallway and then immediately turns back around, and I'm like, hey, are you all right? And I follow her, and I'm right behind her at this point because the place is pretty small, our first place, and I am right behind her as she's closing the door. So not even a full second between her closing the door in my face to me opening the door again. And I push open the door as soon as she closes it, and I'm like, why'd you close the door? Like, are you all right? And when I say that, she is already in bed, under the covers, knocked out. And I'm just like, all right, weird. And I quietly close the door back again, go back onto the couch, end up going to lay down, and then I hear the door pop open again and footsteps just kind of stepping towards me really quick. And as soon as I put my phone down and look up, it's the shadow there. And then I'm in sleep paralysis. And it's almost like it intelligently tricked me into like putting my guard down or something like that, you know? And that was, it made me ask more questions. It made me think, okay, this is something smarter than I thought. It's not just my brain creating something because I'm stressed out, because this was definitely something that I saw happen. I saw her walk before to the point where I would be aware that she walked out of the room. And when I heard it again, it would make me wonder what's going on with her. And no, it was just whatever this thing is, almost tricking me into looking at it again so I can go into sleep paralysis.
Dude, I've had it was a guest a while ago that was talking about how he basically started like messing with this like dark entity and like, I guess provoking it is probably the best way to explain it. And it got to a point where he mentioned that this thing, when he was like about to fall asleep one night, it basically like grabbed him and like pulled his consciousness out of his body and like threw his like astral self on the floor. And he said it was like the most horrifying experience he's ever had in his life, that he could like see his body there, and he could like, felt and saw this thing like pull himself out and like throw him on the floor. And he was trying to get back into his body again. But just like the thought that something could do that is like horrifying. And that kind of shows just like things exist in other realms and other planes that may not be something that we may ever fully understand just because we're so attached to having like a physical form. But just because we exist as a physical form doesn't mean that other things do. So, you know, we may see that as being like one of the most horrifying experiences ever, but realistically, like it may be just an everyday thing for them because it's a matter of like, so something physical needs to connect with something physical, because if you try to like grab something spiritual, like it's not going to work. You're going to like go through it. Yeah. But if you are something spiritual, assumably, like, it's a little bit harder to grab something physical, and that's why you don't hear about those encounters all the time. But grabbing something else that's spiritual would literally be like something physical grabbing something else physical. It's like something spiritual grabbing something else spiritual. Like,
Yeah.
It's not anything out of the ordinary for them.
Yeah. But especially to add in the fact that whatever it is also intelligent. Like, it's not acting on just like some type of animalistic, like just something that it just normally does. Like, it's just not repeating the same process. Like, this thing thought about doing something. Like, it came up with a plan to do something. And that's another thing that kind of boggles my mind. It's not just acting, it's thinking before it acts.
I mean, that it kind of brings in a whole other aspect to these things as to like, why are they doing what they do? Like, do they even have a purpose for what they do, or do they just do it because it's what they do? Like, kind of a weird concept to like think about, but I guess like a good kind of example is for anybody that's read the book / seen the movie Annihilation. Like, the whole thing, you watch an alien movie and you want to know like why it does what it does, but sometimes it's not that. As a human, it's like you have to have like a rhyme and a reason, but it doesn't mean that other things function like that. Like, things might just do things for the sake of doing things without having a purpose to it, which almost makes it like more horrifying, because it's like you want there to be a reason for it other than that's just what they do, like.
Yeah, that's what freaked me out about it. I was like, I don't know what to think anymore. It's not just some weird, like, even when it first starts, it's weird to have a feeling that you can feel way down the room. It's weird to see something darker than the darkness of the room. It's weird to be frozen in your sleep. And then it just keeps getting weirder, because now it's like, all right, now it's like a doppelganger of my fiance to try to like trick me into putting my guard down. And that created a chain of weird doppelganger experiences here in Colorado, by the way. I don't know why, but it created a chain of them that it would constantly happen for me.
Like, you're talking about not in the spiritual realm, but like in the physical realm, seeing people that look just like yourself.
Well, no, I had interactions with people who apparently knew me. I would go into their store all the time. To the point where they were like, "How's it going? How's everything been, man? How's everybody in the family?" Things like that. And I'm like, good. I've never been here before in my life. This is my first time stopping in this store to go pee on my way home. I don't know who you are. And then I was just like, yeah, everything's good, man. Everything is good. How have you been? And I kind of walk out of there like, I don't know who this person was, to the point where even somebody outside of that building was like, "Hey, what's up, man? Like, how you been?" I'm like, "Good, man. Good. I'm going back to my car because this is weirding me out right now. I don't know any of you people here." And then another instance in a Walmart, I go over there. Some guy just walks up to me. He puts his hand up and he's like, "Hey, what's up, man?" Gives me a handshake, brings me in. He's like, "How's it going?" I'm like, Good, brother. How are you? Like, I've never met you before in my life." And it would continue to happen all throughout, just going throughout Colorado, Denver especially. But yeah, I don't know if there's somebody that looks exactly like me, but these people know this guy really well. And I've never seen this guy before in my life.
Do they, just a weird question, have any of them ever somehow knew your name, or have you ever like gotten from them like how they possibly know you? Because like they got to know you on like a really personal level to actually come up and like say something like that, to be like, "Oh, how you been, man? Like, how you doing?" And still be able to like, usually if you mistake the wrong person, as soon as you're talking to them face to face, like you realize it's not that person. But these people clearly like aren't realizing that it's not that same person. And I mean, I know it's Colorado, like how many bearded guys with like beanies are out there, but I mean, once you see enough bearded dudes with beanies, everybody starts looking different, at least, it's like, but that's what you're used to seeing. You can tell the difference.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it would be I would be like, I probably don't sound like this guy. Like, you think they would know, but no, nobody said a name. They never had any second like guess on who I was, or like thought they were talking to to the wrong guy. It was just that same enthusiastic, like, I haven't seen you in a while. And it's weird that each one of them is kind of like, I haven't seen you in a while, man. Like, are you good? Is everything all right? How's the family? Are you doing okay? Which I'm just now realizing that each one of them was like, I haven't seen you in a long while.
Dude, you got to hit him with just because, if it's some random stranger coming up to you, you ain't got nothing to lose. You got to hit him with the like, have you seen me in the astral realm?
Yeah.
And either one, you'll like fuck with their heads, or two, they'll like, something might break. It might be like a glitch in reality at that point. One of them might like open their mouth and a giant white light comes out of it or something like.
And then
you're leaving the Matrix.
It's all been a dream this whole time. Yeah.
You're back in your bed and you're, sitting there with like your very first shadow person experience. Like, this has all been a dream.
Man, that would completely break the brain. Yeah, I've definitely got to ask that question, but it didn't even stop like there. There were moments where, because I record in our guest room here, there's a bed right on the other side over here, and
is that where the killer clown sleeps?
Yeah, where he would go to sleep. You'll see him; he'll move after. But
that's horrifying.
But yeah, it's so funny. I have guests come and sleep here, and they just have a clown here in the room with them.
For anybody that doesn't see the video, he's got literally what's the clown's name from Killer Clowns?
Shorty from Killer Clowns.
That's it. Yeah, life-size Shorty behind him from Killer Clowns, like movie prop.
But anybody who would come and sleep here, they have a weird experience where they think I am crawling into bed with them.
What?
Yeah. It's happened three times, I think, maybe two. But I had my fiance's sister and her boyfriend come in, and they were sleeping in the room, and they were like, yeah, I had a weird, like, I thought you were crawling into bed between us. And I kind of turned over and like, what are you doing, Oscar? And then like, just kind of like everything went back to sleep, and they don't remember what happened after that. And then her brother, one moment, was coming from New York, slept here. I picked him up, dropped him off. This was in the middle of the day. It wasn't at night. And he fell asleep in the room in the middle of the day. And then he gets up, and I guess he tells my fiance, yeah, I had a weird dream that like Oscar just like crawled into bed with me and laid next to me.
Dude,
like, they all say the same thing. They all say that I crawl in there next to them in the bed, and then they just fall back to sleep. Like, I would immediately get up if I was like staying at somebody's house and they crawled into bed with me. I'd be like, what are you doing?
Yeah, what the hell?
Yeah.
Have you so you mentioned that you've had like the sleep paralysis experiences, and I guess I kind of came on your show and talked about my experiences with it, and the listeners kind of know mine with it too, that I've kind of linked astral projection with sleep paralysis, at least in my own case.
Yeah.
And like, do you think that there might be any validity to like, maybe you astral travel and don't even like realize it, and maybe like that's the astral version of yourself? Like maybe, when you're like half asleep, or maybe within the dream state, maybe they think they're asleep, but they're not fully asleep, but they're kind of in that in between like dream state. And maybe that's how they're able to perceive this. But like, what if it is like the astral like version of yourself, even if you are just like walking around your house, and they can like somehow perceive it just because they're in between falling asleep,
Yeah, no, that would be crazy. I mean, the fact is that I don't know, because I don't really ever remember my dreams anyways. Like, I can't remember leaving. I don't remember it. All it feels like is a snap, I'm asleep, snap, I'm awake.
You and me both, man.
Yeah, that's all it is for me. Some people have suggested that because I talk about paranormal stuff all the time in this room, the fact that I have a few haunted objects in this room, maybe that's just creating some type of energy within here.
It's creating an imprint of you because you're like the one that's always in the room.
Yeah, that's what they were saying. Like, it just creates an imprint, and just me crawling into bed with people.
That sounds horrifying. Like, I imagine you like coming up their leg, like doing the
like a little spider crawl.
Spider crawl with like a giant, giant grin.
Yeah.
Like the man who laughs.
I don't think anybody would come over here and stay ever if that's the case. Yeah, but I don't know.
If you have friends that come over and stay and they've had these experiences, one day you just got to fuck with them and actually do it.
I know. That's what I thought about doing. Trust me, dude. Trust me. I thought about doing that. But then I was like, I don't know if they're like, at this point, they're just going to be like weirded out and come with an elbow across the side.
No, you just got to mess with them when it's really early in the morning. If you wake up before them, you just got to like really lightly just lay down on there, pretend like you've been there all night.
Just like yawn. Hey, how's it going?
Don't go anywhere, guys. We'll be right back with that deep conversation you crave. But just a quick reminder, if you'd like to snag some gear for this show, Bizarre Encounters, or your favorite creature or topic, hop on over to the Open Minds Media merch store for a wide range of designs with new drops regularly. Welcome back to the show. Now let's dive right in.
But yeah, so it's I don't know, it's weird. Those are just like weird. I would say one-off, but it's happened multiple times. But also we've had, crazy things happen here, especially with my fiance. So it's like, I don't know. Maybe it's just because I do have haunted objects. Maybe it's because I do talk about this stuff all the time. My mind's kind of always in this kind of space of the paranormal that it's kind of like a beacon at that point.
Or like you're creating your own thought form because you're always thinking about it in that area.
Yeah.
It's almost like creating like a continuous rut or something like that. That is like, there's an imprint of yourself, but then there's the imprint of like the creepy paranormal stuff. And then you put both together and it creates this tulpa type thing that has a life of its own on top of there being haunted objects. And, we're kind of talking about these disembodied beings that maybe they can kind of like choose their shape and form. So, maybe it does have something to do with like the actual items or like the mess of energy if you have multiple items within the room.
Yeah, I have two. I have a doll that was sent to me. She's sitting above me. It's a porcelain doll, plays music, the whole nine. Anything you can think of creepy about a doll.
I was about to say creepy as hell.
Yeah. Apparently some photographer had got it for pictures and it ended up weirding her out, watching her sleep, playing music by itself. And she was like, can you take this? And I was like, yeah, I don't care. Send it my way. And yeah, her hand was broken. So I fixed it. And ever since then, she doesn't really do anything. Every once in a while you hear like the ding ding of the music, but nothing like that. There's a weird.
She just wanted to be fixed.
Yeah, she just wanted to be fixed. That's what I think. And then I have a weird art piece that has this kind of weird Mothman or demon-looking like creature carved into this like this plaster little piece. I'll send you pictures of that or anything too. If I had it,
that sounds cool. I want to see it.
Yeah, if I had it here, I would show you. I think it's like over there. But my fiance was like, "No, you're not buying that." So I just found it at a thrift shop. She was like, "No," and I was like, "But it's cool. Look at it, looks cool." And she was like, "No, I don't get a good feeling from it. No." And I was like,
that just makes me want it more.
yeah, that's what I said. I was like, "Well, I'm still gonna." So I ended up buying it. And then we have this like Catholic. I want to say the word is like maniple. It's the fabric that goes over the arm so they can wipe the communion cup after somebody drinks it. It's just this ornate fabric that goes over the arm. And we ended up buying it at like a oddities and curiosities thing. This one lady just had a bunch of religious items. And we bring that thing home and we had a pair of broken devil horns that light up. And they didn't light up anymore. They broke as soon as you bought them. Classic for any attraction you go to. You're going to buy something that's broken. But we threw this fabric right there onto the dresser. And in the middle of the night, I would say close to 3 o'clock, or if you want to say 3 o'clock to make it creepier, the light just glows red. These devil horns are now on in the room. And we both wake up and we're like, what the hell? Get up. And I go, well, I guess they're working now. I don't know. Whatever. Click them back off. Go to bed. Days and weeks after that, my fiance keeps having weird nightmares. she is not feeling right inside of our place. She keeps hearing noises. She keeps hearing bangs, people talking. And I try to calm her down by saying, listen, we live in a condo. We got people all around us. We're going to hear bangs. We're going to hear the voices from other people every once in a while. Maybe it's just that. And she's like, no, because I specifically hear it like in the closet for some reason, or in a room that I'm not in. Like I hear voices talking. It sounds like multiple people talking. Until one morning, she wakes up and she's crying, full on crying. And she says, I saw what it is. It's ugly. It's ugly. It's that thing over there. And she points to the piece of fabric that we bought, the Catholic piece of fabric. She's like, it's that thing. It's so ugly. I don't just do something, please. And she didn't want me to leave for work. She was so terrified that she was like, please just stay home.
Is she a medium?
This. Well, she doesn't like to like, I know she has feelings and I can see that she has feelings for certain things. She doesn't like to acknowledge any of that. So if you ask her, no. But she definitely was like, I saw this thing. It's ugly. And I end up contacting friends. They end up helping. They at first when I just sent pictures of it, they said, destroy it, get rid of it. Now, just get rid of whatever, burn it, throw it away. You know, most of them said burn it, but immediately through picture, they were like, whatever's there, not good. Not good. So I didn't get rid of it because I had spent money on it.
You just get a glass box that's blessed. It'll be fine.
Yeah, essentially that's what I did. I locked it in a, not even a box, but it's in a jar, a glass jar. Said prayers, holy water, the whole nine of listening to higher vibrational like sounds to kind of up my vibrations for whatever this thing was, my energy. And I just said prayers and I was just like, hey, whatever you are, you're going to be in here now. And you're not allowed to do anything else within our home. You're not allowed to mess with her. You're not allowed to show yourself to her. Nothing. You will just be in this. And as I'm doing these like prayers, I have the headphones in so I can really hear this music to keep me in a good headspace. And as I'm about to finish up, like I had the corded headphones. One of them feels like it's pulled out of my ear. So I have to like not pay attention to it, put it back in, whatever. And then, I locked it in some jar and now we threw it outside for like a couple of weeks or maybe a month to make sure that nothing else was happening, and nothing else happened after that. So eventually I was like, should I try to bring it back inside rather than just sitting out there on the balcony? Like for anybody that looked up to our balcony, there's just a glass jar with like this Catholic fabric just sitting out there. But we ended up bringing it inside and thankfully nothing has happened. Every once in a while I get like the twinge to want to like just pop open the jar.
It's trying to influence you, man.
Just because I want to, like, my curiosity is what's like, is something really going to happen? Like, was this kind of like just all blown out of proportion? But I mean,
if you open it, you just can't do it at your house. You got to do it somewhere else.
I'll do it at somebody else's house.
There you go. Then just leave it hidden somewhere. Something weird happens. Be like, I don't know, man. Like, not my problem now.
No, it's definitely not the weird jar that I let you guys have.
Don't worry, that fabric in it. It's nothing.
Yeah. But yeah, just like ever since then, nothing really weird except for the people seeing me crawl into bed. But that was the one big thing that happened with me and her. I mean, she goes on investigations with me and we go and, stay over and, stay the night at like haunted old jail houses, that are like close to 100 years old. And she's all into that. She still will not accept the fact that she has feelings for things, but I know, I see that she does. So I'm like a rock. Like I'm like a rock. Nothing. I mean, I'll get a sense if something is like happening, but I'm not gonna walk into an area and be like, okay, I'm feeling something heavy. Freaked out. She is very much like, okay, whatever. I'm not getting a good feeling. I'm not getting anything good here, or anything like that. She's very in tune, I guess you would say.
I think women are just a lot more, what's the word I'm looking for? Like attuned to these energies, or they're like tuned to the same frequency or something like that, or partially like the same frequency. Cause I don't know, it seems like there's definitely something to it that there's a lot more women that are mediums than there are men. And even a lot more women that don't want to admit that they have something than like men seem to. And it's got to be something with like just like their way their mind works, or something with the frequency, or maybe it has something to do with like the fact that like they're the life givers. Maybe that has some type of connection into this like spiritual realm that they keep forever. Like, I don't know, there's just something to it. And I mean, when it comes to people that don't actually want to call themselves like a medium, like, I don't know, for me at least, like that brings, not saying that people that aren't mediums aren't attuned to something, but it just brings in like a whole other perspective of if somebody has a gift and they don't want to admit to it, that they're, not just saying that they have the gift, like there is something to it if they don't want to admit that they do, but you see that they do.
Yeah. Yeah. No, the first time I really noticed it is we did an investigation of this comic book shop. It was a comic book shop that it was also like an oddity shop, things like that. I just went in there to ask the guy like, hey, I love the shop, coming here all the time. I have a podcast, a show. You mind if I just shout you guys out? And he's like, yeah, what is it about? And I told him what it was about. And he goes, oh, you believe in ghosts? And I was like, oh, yeah. And he was like, this place is haunted. So he let us do an investigation there. As soon as we get into this place, she already feels like this kind of high anxiety and just this. I thought it was maybe because we were in the basement of this comic book shop and she was just weirded out by it. But particularly there's this room, and it was a crawl space under the stairs, where there was actually a bloody, like, part of a handprint on the wall in there. And when we get into that room, she does not like it. She's on the verge of panic attack. She's like, I just need to get out. I just need to get out. I just need to get out. And we were like, all right, we'll go. We pull out of that room, and she just kept feeling it near certain objects or the room. We later asked the guy what the story was. Apparently it was two twin sisters who would hang out there all the time. They eventually ended their own lives together, but they would hang out in that area all the time. And particularly the crawl space that was freaking my fiance out was an area they would run into when they were feeling panic attacks and high anxiety. And I thought it was really interesting. That was one of my first, when I first noticed, like, oh, like she connected with the spirits of these girls. Cause even the things that she felt and got like high EMF spikes from were things that the girls made and had their handprints on. So she was really connected with that, but she won't ever admit.
You guys got to go around like a Salvation Army or something like that. Like you with an EVP detector and her just with her presence. And anytime you get like a bing, 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 bing on something, then you just gotta be like, hey, what do you think about this? And she goes, nope, don't bring it home. Yeah. You go, got it. Put it in the cart. Put it in the
cart. What was that? You said not get it. And I'm taking it to the register at that moment.
I thought you said don't not get it.
Come on.
At that point, you just get a display case and you just bless the whole display case and you can just fill it up.
Oh, I'm way ahead of you, man. That's what I got. Got a whole display case full of weird stuff, like just chilling in my, like right outside the living room.
And there you go. I've been wanting to do that for a while, actually, just to go to these places and see if I could pick up some like haunted items, because why not? Like, I mean, whether there's something to it or not, like I'm interested in it both ways. Like either one, something weird's going to happen and that's going to be interesting to me, or two, nothing will happen, and it's still a cool object. So
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Do it for the research.
exactly. And true investigating
Yeah.
of a paranormal object.
You're not a true investigator if you're not out there just buying weird stuff.
I mean, I do definitely do that on another end. For anybody that can see behind me, I got like anything and everything cryptid that I've ever found, particularly Sasquatch. It's like, fill it up.
I got a bunch right above me here. I got the weird stuff, as people can see here. Just weird everything. So
Say, I want to feel like a Victorian explorer with, like a room full of like my many conquests versus like a minimalist lifestyle. Like I've always been a big fan of like the Victorian era, like study or like library. So that's what I try to go with in my studio. The new age version of that.
Yeah. Where you're not actually going to you're not going to another country. You're like, I found this at a thrift shop. It's weird and it looks like it's from another country, right?
And it gives me weird vibes. That's the best part. It makes me uncomfortable to be around, so I need it in my office.
Yeah, I'm feeling weird just talking about it. I almost bought something that was a voodoo mask with a bunch of nails just driven into it, just because it looked weird, felt weird to look at, and I think it was in like Pennsylvania, so it would have been a little bit of a conquest, It
there you go,
that conquest feel. But that one, it was an immediately no, especially for the price. So,
dude, I ended up finding these, like the theater masks with like the happy and the smile. Yeah. I found these like metal ones at this antique store at one point, except they're like demons. They have like horns, and it's still done as like the mask style, but it has like horns on the tops. And I was like, bro, this thing's got to be haunted. I've had this thing in my house they had both parts of the set. I had these things in my house for a few years. I have nothing weird happen with them. Like, they're cool as hell, but it was super disappointing that nothing weird happened with them because like they made me uncomfortable to look at. So I was like, hell yeah, I'm buying these. And then no haunting, unfortunately.
That's the real side of the paranormal, everybody. It's like sometimes nothing is going to happen. Nothing at all is going to happen sometimes.
But you still end up with a cool item. So that's what I was saying in the first place. Stay tuned, guys. This is our last break. But if you enjoyed the show and think I deserve it, please leave a review or rating for the show on iTunes, Spotify, or any other podcatcher you use. Your continued support is what makes this show possible, and your opinions go a long way to help the show grow and improve. So thank you. Now feel free to skip past these ads so we can get back to the show. Now back with that deep conversation you crave. Well, I guess kind of starting to wrap up towards the end, man. I always like to end the show with words of wisdom. So if there's any words of wisdom you might want to bestow on the listeners today, what might it be, man?
Well, I would say, like the tagline of Induced Fear would be ask questions and face your fears. Like, don't be afraid to ask questions, to question things, even if you come off as crazy sometimes. Like, sometimes you need to face these things and to get the answers that you want, or to realize that you don't have to be afraid of whatever it is. I mean, that's how it is for this world in particular. Some people are afraid of it, and once you dive into it and you realize that you're not alone in it, makes you less afraid, man.
Ain't that the truth? And of course, buy any weird item that you bought, because it can help you get over those fears if it does happen to actually be something that's haunted.
Surround yourself with it. Exposure therapy.
Literally.
Yeah.
Make it so that your house feels like an oddities exhibit.
Sleep with a creepy clown in your room. You won't be afraid of clowns.
It's true. And if anybody wanted to come and find your show, check out all the awesome interviews that you do over there. Where might people be able to find your show? Where can people find your podcast? And where might people be able to contact you if they have some experiences they want to share with you?
Well, you can contact us at inducedfearpod@gmail.com, or you can just hit any one of the message buttons on the social. Pretty open, allow messages to flow through there. So you can just look up Induced Fear on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, X, whatever. Pretty much any social that you can think of. I think except for Blue Sky. I don't know. But we're on there. Induced Fear, the same thing. If you're trying to listen to us, just search Induced Fear. Also on YouTube, if you want to see the mug or whatever, you can do that. And yeah, we're on pretty much everything. Spotify, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Amazon, whatever podcast app you want to listen to us on, we're on there.
And I will make sure I include those links and everything down in the show description. And I appreciate you coming on the show, man. I appreciate you sharing your experiences on this side of the show. And we'll definitely have to do a round 2. And maybe we can even dive into some weird topics on our own, man. Since you kind of deep dive a little bit, I like doing that stuff. Maybe we can collab on some of that stuff,
Definitely
man.
a part 2, man. UFOs. I got UFOs, so.
Sounds good to me. We got it marked, man. If you enjoyed today's conversation and want to show some love, smash that follow icon and share today's episode with a friend. Grassroots support from listeners like you is exactly how the show grows. So thank you guys for all the support. And if anybody would like to get in touch with me for any reason whatsoever, you guys can do so through email, which is inquiriesofourrealitypodcast@outlook.com, or through social media. Instagram and Facebook are the ones that I'm the most active on. Or you guys can also contact me through the submission form, which is available at the top of the link tree, which is available down in the show description. It's the contact me bar, and that will go directly to my email, of course. And the last way you guys can get a hold of me is through the hotline. You can either text or call, whatever's easier for you guys. And that number is 313-364-1551. And if you guys have some free time, don't forget to check out some of the awesome friends that we have in the community. IKNOWSQUATCH, Snarly Out Natural Products, Cryptoteeology, and Big Ape Threads, and our other friends with affiliate links, Dimension Devices, Oregon-ite, and Sticker Mule, with additional discounts and credits available, and more information for those is available down in the show notes. And every single thing that I mentioned throughout the show is all available in the link tree, which is available down in that show description also. And with that, I hope you guys enjoyed the conversation. Hope today's show has connected some dots in your own reality. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Have a good night, everybody.
Reality isn't what it seems. I'm Dr. D's taking aboard a craft with a tractor beam. Is life a simulation or an astral dream? Aliens travel through black holes in different galaxies. Life is a bizarre odyssey, with a mic talking about philosophy. Well, Bigfoot is stalking campers as a Wendigo walks through the woods of sharpened antlers, using a Ouija board to talk to the dead like a necromancer. There's so many questions and not enough answers. So if you're interested in mysteries and abnormalities, tune in and listen to Inquiries of Our Reality. So if you're interested in mysteries and abnormalities, tune in and listen to Inquiries of Our Reality.